So I want to welcome all of you to the third Startup Spotlight Demo Day. My name is Katya Wald. I'm the Executive Director of the MIT Enterprise Forum, Cambridge. We're glad to have you all here today for this quick lunchtime pitch session. Before we get started, I wanted to thank today's sponsor, Chen PR. Chen has been an annual sponsor of ours for over 20 years, and their fearless leader, Chris Carlton, has been a tireless volunteer for us for many years. He and the whole team at Chen are just fun folks to be around, and we love working with them. So thank you all for your support. I did want to take this time to announce last week's pitch winner. That is Senecio Robotics. They are an Israeli company that builds leading edge technology solutions based on artificial intelligence and robotics. And they're addressing the most abundant killers of humans, which is mosquitoes. So congratulations to them. It's a really cool technology. If you missed their pitch, it's up on our website. Today we have 4 great startups presenting. We ask that you vote for your favorites after you've heard the pitches. Voting link is on the website. Please make sure to connect with them via the emails that they provide or the Slack channel we have set up. The video recording of today will also be available on our website. And now, without further ado, I want to turn it over to my colleague, Amy Goggins, who will get us introduced to the first presenter.
Thank you. I'm Amy Goggins, Program Director at the MIT Enterprise Forum, and I'm going to introduce you to AG Energy Solutions as the first presenter.
First of all, good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending on where you're at. My name is David Drinkard. I'm President and CEO of Ag Energy, and here with me I have Amit Dhingra. He is their Chief Science Officer.
Salutations and greetings to everyone. My name is Amit Dhingra. I'm the Chief Science Officer with Ag Energy. In my other life, I'm also a professor at Washington State University. And I actually I focus on working in many areas of safeguarding our food supply for the future and today as well. So most of us who grew through the 70s and 80s probably know that we once come to this threshold once before where we were threatened, our food supplies were threatened, and things haven't changed essentially. If you look at the map or the soil degradation map, it shows you that we are really losing productivity in our soils due to irrigation, use of fertilizers, and it's kind of reduced the quality of what we can grow, and the yields are going down. And because of that, the soils have deteriorated as well, where water holding capacity, nutrition holding capacity continues to decline. So how do we feed a world when the population is going to be about 10 billion people in the next 2 decades? It's not too far away. Imagine some of you have children and grandchildren, and they will be kind of facing these fears. So what we are talking about here is a product which is carbon logic. It is produced through a process that will be detailed shortly, process called pyrolysis, which produces carbon logic biochar product, which can be added back to soil. It regenerates soil health. It improves the conditions of the soil to produce food at a higher level. And in fact, we've combined carbon logic and organic fertilizer to see increases in yields as well as quality, because all of us really want to have that taste what we're eating as well. And there have been several field trials done as well with crops such as hemp, where in yield increases of 40% have been seen. So not only it benefits the environment in multiple ways, it also benefits the bottom line of the farmers. So it's really has that impact. David, over to you.
So a little bit about our production process. You see there through the 3 units, our production facility. It's a fully autonomous continuous feed gasification system. And essentially what it does is it cooks any kind of agriculture material at a high temperature, low oxygen environment. And it pulls the volatiles or the gases out of the feedstock and leaves a carbon shell or a high porosity carbon structure there. So we've designed these systems so that we can process any kind of ag waste, anything from wood chips to municipal waste to grass straws. We can control the parameters very tightly. This overall system eliminates ag waste in a clean environmental way. It produces synthetic gas and renewable energy at a reasonable price. They're scalable such that you can locate these things close to the feedstock or production locations, and they're designed for high volume manufacturing. Several patents and proprietary information associated with them. Initial market, we're going after the high value crops. So in the US and Canada, cannabis, hemp, the high value row crop vegetables, and nursery stock. It's a very sizable market. Here you see some of the customer results. This is kind of a cross section of different cannabis strains, grown both indoor and outdoor with different soil conditions. And in all cases, you're seeing some really incredible results associated with the yield improvements. This is some of the value propositions. So what you see there is the blue line is their existing revenue. The red is the incremental increase in cost of our Carbon Logic. And the green bar is the increased revenue that they saw across their overall facility. So by using our Carbon Logic, the customers get a tremendous value proposition. Comment? Comment, you're muted right now.
I'm so sorry. I tried a couple of times. We compared we did these trials where we compared a traditional wood-based biochar we got from off the shelf, and we also looked at the Carbon Logic product. As you can see in blue, basically is showing the amount of yields that we were able to get, which is a really almost a 35% increase, as well as what sweetness. We actually looked at biochemical methods to determine how much sugars are there, fructose and glucose in particular, because that is what really drives the process of repurchase by the customer. So as I mentioned earlier on, this is not only benefiting the environment, it's actually adding to the bottom line of the farmer, which means the uptake of this technology or the utilization of this technology is going to drive itself through two methods, one benefiting the economics as well as the environment. David?
So a little bit about the economics associated with our machine. Those three machines process about 1,300 pounds of waste a year. And the input power, so is basically just the power required to move the material through. So it's about 3 kilowatts per unit. And the output is about 100 kilowatts. So those cluster of machines will produce about $217,000 of power at 13 cents a kilowatt. And then also the unique biochar, it produces about, depending on the price structure, you have anywhere from $800,000 to $1.5 million a year. And with those, we actually, by putting the carbon back in the ground, it's a very stable carbon structure, and it actually sequesters carbon. So you're actually offsetting CO2 in this tune of 1,700 tons per year, and great margins associated with the product and paying off the capital equipment. So go to market are really right now closest path to revenue. We're going after selling our Carbon Logic product into cannabis and hemp and high value crops right now, starting in Oregon and Washington, expanding in the Western US. And we're actually in some talks with some people over on the East Coast actually that want to bring the production of the biochar over to the East Coast. And so market, a lot of evaluations and trials in high-end crops, kind of business to business, boots on the ground, trade shows, and we're leveraging success through incentives to these different farmers. Very experienced management team, myself, Amit, and then we have a very extensive board and kind of a cross section of engineers from various ag background and also aerospace background. We also are a semifinalist in a global competition with Indigo Ag, and that's a global competition that's looking at trying to remove 1 trillion tons of CO2 from the atmosphere and put them into the ground. We won that piece of the competition by accelerating the movement of carbon from the atmosphere through plants and into this stable carbon structure that goes into the ground and stays there for thousands of years.
Great.
So thank you very much. take any questions.
Great. So thank you guys. Just a reminder to everybody, put your questions in chat and I will try to get to all of them. First question that came up is which parts of the process are patented?
So primarily well, there's two sides. There's several, the 3 patents associated with it are associated with the gasification system and how we deal with high silica content materials. And then we have some proprietary blends associated with the biochar itself.
Great. I'm going to ask my own question, and you may have covered it, so I apologize. Are you what's your production right now? Are you, how long does it take to produce the actual thing? And then, are you at scale yet? How's that working?
No, so those 3 units right there will produce roughly 700 pounds of biochar a day each. So about a ton of biochar. And we're not at 100% production right now. We're probably running about 50 to 75%. As with sales increase, we'll wrap that up. And right now, kind of spring planning's going, so the sales are actually pretty good this spring.
Great. There's a question here. I imagine the nutrients content will have to do with the waste processed. Is there any pre-selection work on the garbage?
So go ahead and take that one, Amit.
So it depends on what type of feedstock you're using. We're not using garbage in particular. We're using feedstock could be anything that is organic, of course. When you use, for example, wood-based biochars, those are richer in carbon. If you use crop residues, for example, wheat or rice or other matter, they're rich in nitrogen. You can convert manure waste also into biochar. So it depends. And then you could combine based on what your final outcome is. The idea is to amend soils. So we're also utilizing a lot of information about the soils. What's the soil bulk density? What's the original organic content in the soil? And based on that, that's where the proprietary blends come in. So it's not just, here's the product, take it, put it, because there's no silver bullet approach. There's a lot of decision making that goes on, working with the customer, finding out what their soil condition is, and then so that they can get both benefits of sequestering carbon and making money off the product. I hope that addresses the question.
Sure. What are your revenues expected this year and next?
So this year we really only expect to be about $250,000. Next year will be about twice that revenue.
Okay, great. Would your technology have utility for urban yard waste, leaves, lawn clippings, etc.?
Yeah, yes, they do. We're actually working with the city of Spokane and in preliminary discussions about co-locating, processing some of their municipal agricultural waste to put into different cities. This biochar has unique characteristics in that it also filters a lot of materials. So we've done a lot of studies with the Forest Service and different applications where we actually put it in bioswales and it pulls out heavy metals, putting it on lawn applications and it reduces water usage. So depending on what particular, there's multiple applications and usage, and depending on the feedstock and what the applications are. But yes, it will process different municipal waste.
Got it. There's a question here about sort of ag energy versus carbon logic. Do you have two different brands?
So the company is Ag Energy. We're actually DBA Carbon Logic. Started out more of as an energy play, and now we've kind of converted to our product is called Carbon Logic, and so we're really just kind of going by Carbon Logic now.
I think we have no more time, Katya.
Oh, okay.
Go.
Right.
Thank you so much, and we'll connect you on our Slack channel with the remaining questions.
Yep.
All right,
Thank you.
on to the next presenter, Ambulatory Innovations, who was the winner of our college pitch competition in November, the Beantown Throwdown, and you can take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. We are Ambulatory Innovations, and we are here to present our flagship product called the Community Ambulation Tool Mat, also known as the CAT Mat. So before we begin our presentation, I want to introduce you to our team. So I'm Katie Muse, I'm one of the co-founders, and sitting next to me is Michelle Maylou, our other co-founder. So we began this company in 2018 with a desire to create a product that would not only be the first of its kind, but also a significant contribution to the physical therapy industry. So having both recently graduated with 7 years of education and real-time clinical experience through our clinical rotations under our belts, we feel like we have the knowledge to be able to create this product. And Nick Draper and Travis Cohen are the men responsible for the CAT Mat technology. So they are working together to explore all avenues of prototyping and product development for our company. And our marketing strategist is William Maylou. He is responsible for our website creation and upkeep, as well as some social media platforms. So together, we create a passionate, driven team whose mission is to create innovative products that physical therapists will use in their treatment plans to enable their patients to reach their full potential. Our large-scale vision is to be the most sought-after product creators in the worldwide physical therapy industry. We have conducted our own research and found that more than 35 million Americans each year have a diagnosis that negatively affects their gait. These diagnoses span from neurological disorders such as a stroke to something as common as aging that can take a toll on a person's ability to walk properly. So we surveyed 50 physical therapists, and 100% responded that their gait-impaired patients would benefit from training on uneven terrain. Yet 80% found it challenging to accurately simulate that terrain, and 73% reported that was due, in part, to a lack of functionally accurate simulation devices. So from our research and personal experience working in physical therapy clinics, we have concluded that there is currently no cost-effective, lightweight, user-friendly device for physical therapists to functionally train patients for community ambulation or how to walk outdoors. Our solution to this pain point is the CAT Mat. This product will enable physical therapists to directly and safely work on improving ambulation and movement patterns, balance strategies, and lower extremity strengthening for their patients. These mats consist of 1 square foot interlocking pieces that have a compressible top layer and are filled with various sizes of compressible beads. So the uneven surface creates a walking outdoors feel because the beads will disperse each time a person steps on the mat, creating an ever-changing terrain. So we will create 3 different mat mediums to simulate common outdoor surfaces, those surfaces being sand, grass, and gravel. Having determined the most in-demand terrains to simulate through customer discovery interviews, we will start with developing sand simulation mats and later progress to gravel and grass versions. A unique strength of our design is its modular nature. Its puzzle piece shape allows the mat to become as wide or as long as desired per the patient's needs. Created as separate modular units, therapists will be able to mix and match their desired quantity of mat terrain types as needed for individual patients. So fitting within the confines of standard parallel bars commonly found in physical therapy clinics, this product is accessible to even the most dependent of patients. The CAT Mat will allow PTs to functionally train gait for a variety of diagnoses, from musculoskeletal to nervous system deficits. Our competitors in the physical therapy industry are few and far between. There are some devices that exist to functionally gait train patients, but they are most often too heavy, too bulky, or too costly for physical therapy clinics. For affordable and space-efficient products, the Eric's Balance Pad is our closest comparable product on the market, but it lacks several vital gait training properties, with its most notable deficiency being its inability to simulate realistic surfaces. We intend to become the perfect middle ground product that is more functionally accurate than the Eric's Balance Pad and more economically friendly for smaller businesses.
So we have many target market avenues to explore. So far, we have performed customer discovery interviews in outpatient settings from neuroclinics to orthopedic clinics. We plan to address the rest of these target markets at a later date, but we feel that we could do worthwhile business with all of these audiences. So we have created 2 value propositions for the 2 largest proposed target markets that we have, outpatient and inpatient facilities. So for outpatient clinics, the primary drive of business is to increase patient referrals. In order to increase patient referrals, a clinic needs to have better outcomes in improving a patient's quality of life. The CAT-MAT will provide a more functional treatment to patients who are getting traditional treatment practices. So this in turn will improve clinics' turnover rate and improve a patient's quality of life more efficiently. And so with better turnover rates comes more patient referrals, whether they be from previous patients or from referrals from physicians. So therefore, business will ultimately increase with the use of our product. For inpatient hospitals and rehab facilities, the primary drive of business is to safely discharge patients from the facilities as quick as possible to make room for new patients. For these establishments, quicker, safer discharge leads to both lower readmission rates and higher new patient admittance. So use of the CAT-MAT in this setting will provide a more functional treatment to patients who are gait training than traditional treatment practices, and will thereby accelerate clearance to discharge, reduce risk of readmissions, and open up space for new patients. So our plan is to establish a for-profit C Corp company composed of physical therapists, engineers, and marketing strategists. We currently have a provisional patent and are taking the necessary steps towards obtaining a utility patent. Ambulatory Innovations intends to contract with an injection molding facility for production manufacturing. Once we have a finished product, we will initially use direct marketing to clinics. We will then progress to selling to distribution sources for medical devices. This includes either medical supply companies to distributors who specialize in the sale of items to individual physical therapy clinics. We are currently in the prototyping phase of the CAT-MAT and are collecting baseline data of pressure points and muscle activation during gait on concrete, sand, and gravel. To collect this information, we have created a successful relationship with the Nerve Lab through UMass Lowell, and we've gained use of their state-of-the-art equipment for these data collecting purposes. So once we have 30 mat piece prototypes created, we will perform the same data collection with our mats and then cross-compare all of the data to see if there's a significantly close correlation of our mat to any of the test surfaces that we have provided. This research has been put on hold, unfortunately, due to COVID-19, but we fully intend to return to the lab once it is open and safe again. And then this last slide is just a list of awards that we've received over the past year, including first place at MIT Annual Beantown Throwdown. These demonstrate our dedication to the company and the effort that we've put in to achieve success, and we'll continue to work hard and stop at nothing to achieve our dreams. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please let us know now, and you can check out our website and follow us on social media.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
So, quick question for you based on when we saw you in September, and then I'll read all the other ones. What milestones have you hit since you pitched in September?
Yep, so since we've pitched, we actually have created that relationship with the Nerve Lab and had started our research, started our baseline data and all of that. We had plans to do that, but we didn't actually start executing that until around December or January. So that's new. And then we also actually have a singular working prototype now, where before we just had a functional one to show people. Now we have one that people can actually step on and walk around on and use.
Great. There's a question here about, we want to make sure they understand correctly that you have not contacted potential customers yet, or have you? And if so, what was the reaction when you did connect with people?
Yeah, so we've spoken with directly 50 potential customers from different clinics, so inpatient, outpatient, home care, and all of them really liked our idea, which was very nice. We used the I-Corps methodology. I'm not sure if you guys knew about that, but it teaches you how to conduct customer discovery interviews without telling them exactly what your product is. And what we were asking, like, do you feel like there's things missing in PT when it comes to gait training, and what are you guys looking for? What would you be interested in? And they were definitely interested in a product that they could make it fit within the confines of their clinic. Like they liked having it very customizable, which is something our product offers to them.
Great. Have you thought about a price point and kind of asked them about that when you spoke to them?
Yep. So we have talked about price range, and the physical therapist said that they would spend anywhere between $80 and $120. And we feel it'll come right in the middle of there, about $100 per mat piece, which is relatively comparable price to the AirX balance pad. Buying a singular AirX mat costs about $80. So they'd only be spending $20 more for something that will be more functionally realistic to walking outdoors.
Have you explored what the manufacturing cost would be and what your delta would be?
Yes. So
yeah, so we're still working on that. So we've looked into like what it would cost to contract out for the injection mold and things like that. And then in the beginning, when we're doing the prototyping process, you know, we're going to be using higher cost materials, but once we get to the point where we are using an injection mold, we're going to be buying in bulk. So the cost per mat creation is going to go down.
There's a ton of questions coming in now. Hopefully I can get to them. The population with the different gait diagnoses, what percentage in fact go to PT? Will this make gait treatments qualify for higher insurance reimbursements?
So we put that graph up there because everyone who has diagnoses like that would be going to physical therapy. You know, there's always outliers of people who just don't go because they either don't want to or they feel like they can't afford it, things like that. But that graph is essentially to show that those are all the people that could be going to physical therapy for different impairments. And then as far as, what was the second half of the question?
Would this qualify for higher insurance reimbursements?
So the way that insurance works for physical therapy is that it doesn't change per what you use for different devices for treatment. It only changes with different treatments that you give. So this mat would fit under Therex, would fit under neuromuscular, and those are already within our insurance plans. So it wouldn't affect anything. It wouldn't change it. It wouldn't make it more expensive or less expensive.
Great. Amy, how much time do I have? Can I do
One more question, but 1
Okay.
minute.
I had the same question too, so I'm going to ask this one. Would an individual or their caregivers ever buy your mats for in-home rehabbing?
Yeah, we actually have already had some lay people that we've talked to express interest in using that for home. Specifically, total knee replacements have asked about if they would be able to buy one for their home to practice walking outdoors, especially during the winter time, because you want to get used to walking on uneven terrain, but you don't really want to be going out on the ice when you've just had your knee done and practicing that on your own, because that's not very safe. So initially we'll target physical therapists in their clinics, but we will at some point reach out to targeting individuals.
Great. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Great progress since we
Thank you
saw
so
you in
much.
September. Congratulations.
Yeah,
And
that's
who's
great.
next?
Next is Richard from Care Clever.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Richard Marshall. I'm VP Business Development with the company Care Clever, the makers of the companion social robot Cutie. And in spite of my funny accent, I'm based here in Boston, Mass. Stop for a moment and imagine if this week you'd had one conversation. And then next week, perhaps you'll have two conversations. And then the week after that, maybe again, you'll only have one conversation. And that pattern rolls on into the future. This is the lived experience of millions and millions of seniors in the United States, in Europe, Japan, and China right now. And if you stop and think about it, it's no wonder that the Chief Medical Officer of AARP considers loneliness, which leads to dependency way too soon, to be the health equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes each day. If you take these micro stories and you aggregate up to the macro level, you can easily understand how this is a gargantuan economic and moral quandary for our societies. And everything I've told you was the case prior to COVID. And of course, I'm sure you're painfully aware of the disproportionate disconnection and isolation occurring to some of those most vulnerable, being our elderly. And this pattern, I'm afraid, is very likely to continue into the future, regardless of how soon we open up our economies in the United States. Put very simply, our goal is to add thousands of years of additional connectedness, community, and joyful life to seniors around the world over the coming few years. And we do that with a companion robot called Cutie. Cutie is an autonomously mobile, voice-controlled companion designed specifically to connect seniors to other people. So it's important, and I stress this, this device is designed 100% for this application and 100% to connect those at risk of isolation to other people in real time. And that may be to friends and family through telepresence engagements, through scheduled rich events that seniors can enjoy from the comfort and privacy of their homes, but also safety. So Cutie, I need help, and Cutie will kick off an emergency workflow and respond. And of course, as we're all aware, the telehealth is exponentially growing, and Cutie is a platform to deliver remote patient care and telehealth services. The last few months have changed the course of history, and we're all very aware of that. And we've done our part to respond. We're a French company, we're now operating in the United States. And in France, we've responded and we've made devices available to nursing homes, particularly in northern France, which is actually the most affected there. And right now, today, Cutie is being used by seniors in nursing homes where the seniors are completely disconnected from the outside world. They're using it to communicate with family. They're using it daily to enjoy experiences such as self-massage or history quizzes communally, as you see here. This is not a robot rolling around looking for a use case. Cutie has been designed 100% for this application over the last 3 years. Whether it's the hardware, the software stack developed under GDPR in Europe, the manufacturing, which is at scale now and we're commercial, Cutie is completely 100% designed for this particular use. It's the result of a number of years of development of a strong and stable team, not least our CEO, Antoine, who himself is a serial entrepreneur and has companies employing more than 120 people right now. And we have a team in France and a team here in Boston, US. We've been fortunate to gather some recognition over the last few years as we've developed to what is now the commercially launched product and now in use in homes and in facilities in France. We're presently in the Mass Challenge Health Tech cohort and are proud to be partnering with AARP here in the United States. Going forward, we see at least 80 robots sold this year in Europe. We are piloting in the United States for the back end of this year, and sales will ensue. We anticipate sales of perhaps $2 million next year. So my takeaways are, Cutie is a dedicated platform specifically to combat the isolation of our most vulnerable, being the seniors in our society. We've actually sped up more than we perhaps expected in response to COVID, and we're making at least some difference now in France. And my ask to everybody watching is to reach out. We are seeking partners in the United States, and of course we are raising capital as well. So with that, I appreciate your time and thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that. So I think this was already answered and it came in before you did the funding slide, so I'm going to skip that one. I have a question about how much it costs. How much does the actual unit cost?
Yeah. So we work on a basis of around $5,000 a unit.
Okay. There's a question about the design. Was not using a more humanoid design an option you took in particular?
Absolutely. So I'm glad someone mentioned the word design, because, you know, an obvious question for us is, well, why don't we just give seniors a laptop and let them use Zoom, right? And there's a great reason that what's come out of the last 4 years of development is what you see in front of you, the footprint, the size, the movement, the head adjustment, the smiling face, and the fact that it's not anthropomorphic. This is intentional design, and it's the result of multiple years of design from medtech specialists in Europe. And it's important because design is really, really important. There's a reason why seniors aren't using Zoom like we are right now today. And as everybody knows from Apple, design is incredibly important.
Great. Question here about what is proprietary. Is it the robot itself, the software? And at $5,000, this is a multi-part question. At $5,000, are you going to arrange financing? Or what about like rental or something like that?
Yeah, so the device is completely proprietary. So it's manufactured, assembled by a medtech device manufacturer in Europe at the moment. But we own all of the designs. The software is built from bottom up. So we are not at all reliant on the big tech vendors, the Amazons and Googles of this world. We have deliberately developed it to be independent of the major tech companies, and much respect to them, but this is our intentional design. And we own the injection molds. There's proprietary circuitry that we have developed, and it's all ours, and deliberately done such that manufacturing can be replicated directly or under license in the US and in Asia later. And there was a second part to the question, I think.
Are you at $5,000? Are you going to arrange financing or rental opportunities for people?
Yes, yeah, we are.
Facilities.
Yeah, we do consider that as well. I mean, from a relatively startup company point of view, of course, you know, capital is a question. Some of the larger organizations would be better suited to seek a lower cost of capital than us, but clearly robot as a service is an option that we're considering as well.
Yeah. There's a question here about who's going to handle the technology. How easy is it for someone older, you know, 80 plus, to sort of understand how to use it?
You know, there's clearly a learning curve for anything, okay? But what, again, the design of QT is such that it's designed to be completely fluid conversational user experience with zero training apart from explaining perhaps there's a few sequences of questions that can be asked. So the design from ground up is with seniors and for seniors. So it's been a continual co-design process over the last 3.5 years.
So this is my own question, maybe a dumb one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So if you were to, like, say, you know, want to interact with your grandmother who's, you know, somewhere, what do you have to have on your end?
So we have a good question. We've developed, we have an app, and on our laptops, you can use it to dial into QT, and with the appropriate access, you can send QT to your grandmother's sofa. Perhaps she's not as mobile as she was before, and you can engage in a rich experience with grandma, and then QT afterwards would return to its base.
Great.
That's it, Katja.
Okay.
Thumbs up.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Richard.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Alex from NanoMed Targeting Systems.
Do you see my screen?
Nope. Now we do.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for participating in this event. Nanometargeting System is a company in the field of nanotechnology, established in Oklahoma City in collaboration with the Oklahoma University Medical Science Center. And we are developing a platform technology for targeted nanotechnology drug delivery. And our first application is treatment for atrial fibrillation. Basically, what we are doing, we're building a nanoformulation that consists of nanomagnetic particle and a payload, a drug, or any other payload that needed to be brought to the treatment area. We're inserting the nanoformulation into the bloodstream, and by a focused external magnetic field, we pull it out of the bloodstream into the treatment area, where the payload is released and to do whatever it needs to do. Atrial fibrillation is the most common type of heart rhythm disorder. Currently about 5 million Americans, and it's expected to go to 12 million till 2050. It was recognized by the Senate and the Congress as a national health problem. And post-operative AF is the most common complication encountered in cardiac surgery. Between 30% to 50% of the patients who are going open heart surgery are developing post-operative AF. What's the problem with the current treatment? Regarding atrial fibrillation, the most common treatment is ablation, because medication are not so effective, and every patient who is progressing will need to do some intervention procedure. Ablation is quite expensive. Often it requires another procedure after several years. And one of the most problem with it is that electrophysiologists, who are the only doctors who can perform, are overwhelmed with patient load, and there will not be enough capacity when the numbers will grow in the future. There is no preventive treatment for post-operative AF. What they're doing, they're watching the patient till he overcomes the problem. It's a major economic burden on the hospitals, because extra hospitalization, which usually require also some intensive care stay, is not covered by insurance. And patients who get post-operative AF have higher risk to develop AF in the future. So what we are doing, we are treating the same neural centers that are on the muscle of the heart that are treated by ablation, but instead we are bringing calcium into those neural cells. The calcium is, when you increase the concentration of calcium in the cells, it kills the cells and achieves the same results as we want. We want to kill those neural cells in order to prevent atrial fibrillation. In AF, we're doing it as a non-invasive, almost non-invasive procedure by external magnetic field. And in post-operative AF, we're doing it by injecting the formulation at the end of the procedure before closing the chest. So why we are better? First of all, it's shorter. Our procedure takes overall about 1.5 hours. We can perform it earlier because it's not so invasive, so the outcome will be better. It's less risky and less expensive, and it can be performed by an intervention cardiologist, which means we enlarge by far the amount of applicable doctors the procedure can be done. As I said, post-operative AF is the only treatment that currently will be. Our team consists of several scientists from the Oklahoma University Health Science Center, and also from the Veteran Hospital in Virginia. And also we have several board members from science and business background. Our regulatory path, which is one of the most important things in medical equipment, we anticipate to do a PMA After this fundraising, we will start pre-submission process with the FDA. We'll do the clinical trial application, and then we'll start clinical within 2 years and expect to start to get approval within 4 years. What we achieved so far. We have done very successful preclinical trials on dogs, which shows that we can prevent atrial fibrillation and post-atrial fibrillation. The outcome was within 15 to 30 minutes after inserting the nanoformulation. We also proved that we know how to pull the nanoformulation out of the bloodstream with a very accurate location. And we're using, as I said, we're using calcium, which is a very straightforward material that already exists in the body. This is to show the result compared to the control groups that haven't been treated, which show significant, basically after the treatment, we couldn't inhibit any more atrial fibrillation in the animals that were in the trial. Our roadmap is we need to build the GMP nano production lab. We need to do some rabbit safety trial, which is a standard procedure before starting clinical trial. And then maybe we'll need to do some chronic trials. It depends on what the FDA will require for in order to get the clinical approval. And then we'll move into clinical trials. One of the major business advantage of our procedure is a large or very large gross margins, which probably resemble to what the stent was when it was introduced. We have a gross margin of about 80% and maybe even more because the cost of production is very low. And that's given, we will charge about a few $1,000s for each dosage of the operation, which with some people we talk, they say that it's even too low. Comparable atrial fibrillation procedure costs between $12,000 to $20,000.
1 minute left.
So that's what we do. It's, as I said, it's a platform technology and a very unique, revolutionary way to treat atrial fibrillation. And thank you for listening.
Great, thank you, Alex. There have been a bunch of questions coming in, so I'm going to start from the top here. How many patients are required for the clinical trial?
That's a good question because it depends on, basically, at the end of the day, it depends on the FDA, but what goes in our favor is that atrial fibrillation is considered a major problem. So in those cases, in the recent years, the FDA has loosened the requirement of efficacy once you show safety, so that will reduce probably the number of patients we will need. But it probably be at least between 50 to 100 patients.
Interesting. How much capital do you need to reach the FDA approval in year 4?
We need about $3 to $4 million.
Okay. I have a question here about if you could summarize your IP strategy and any moats that you've established.
Yes, the IP strategy consists of 2 things. First of all, patents. We have already 3 published patents and there's a few additional in the pipeline. The other side of the IP is the knowledge that is a nanoformulation procedure, how to build the nanoformulation. Currently, we keep it as a secret know-how, and we are not going to patent it because once you patent it, everybody knows how to do it, and we consider it as a house secret.
A question here about what is the device required and how much will it cost and what are any other costs involved?
For the atrial fibrillation procedures, there is a device that consists of electromagnetic station, external electromagnetic station, which will probably cost somewhere between $50,000 to $100,000. But because each procedure requires a nanoformulation, and as I said, it's a very profitable product, there is a way to provide the magnetic station on a basis of commitment for several procedure over time, or those kind of financing. Our main revenue driver is, of course, nanoformulation. For the post-operative, we are developing unique injection systems that will cost a few $1,000s.
I have a question here about what are the surgical training requirements? And what about the nano form of the drug delivery? Does that need to go through clinical trials?
I'm not sure what it means if it needs to go to clinical trial, but yes, we need to do clinical trial using the nanoformulation. The ingredient of the nanoformulation, all of them are already approved by FDA. We use approved ingredient, but we will need to approve the nanoformulation for the treatment. Regarding the skills of the doctors, the only things that he needs to know is how to insert a catheter into the bloodstream, and very, very much like catheterization. That's which is every intervention cardiologist knows how to do.
Okay. I have a question here about which class of device are you considered by the FDA? 1, 2, or 3?
That's a good question. It's very hard to answer it now because nanotechnology always in the FDA is referred to as a combinatory device, which include drug or material and a device. The device itself probably will be class 2. Our aim, because all the materials that we are using are already FDA approved, we believe we'll be able to go to the device track, and then we'll go to PMA.
Great. Question about what's the current reimbursement for this procedure? Is there a current code that you can use?
Yes, there is code. I don't remember what's the code. The atrial fibrillation is fully covered by reimbursement today. And as I said, it's much higher than the reimbursement will be needed for our product, for our procedure.
Okay, I think I have time for one more question, so I'm just going to go ahead and ask it. How will you convince your target markets that the benefits outweigh the risk? The risk being both costs and medical side effects.
I can say that we already talked with several leading electrophysiologists in the market, and all of them said that if it's working and if you can prove in clinical trial it's working, then every one of us will adopt it, because we are always looking to ways to treat more patients. And if usually atrial fibrillation procedure takes about 4 hours, if not more, there are even some of them go to 14 hours, then we can shorten the procedure significantly, and we believe there will be no side effects.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much, Alex. I appreciate it. For everybody who joined today, thank you again. Make sure you vote for your favorite pitch today. The voting link is on the Startup Spotlight website. We will also, again, follow up with all of you with the link and the video once we get this edited down. And then we will announce the winners next week on May 15th, and you have until May 14th to vote. But again, thank you all for coming. This is the 3rd of our Startup Spotlights. We've got 3 more to go. So please join us next Friday for our next batch of startups. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.